Oh, just a second here. Hold on a second.
Good evening, Vicksburg. Let's call to order tonight's regular session Village Council meeting tonight, Monday, September 19th, 2022. We'll do a Pledge of Allegiance. If you all stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll take a moment of silence for all those willing and able tonight. We do a roll call, Mr. Wines, please.
Trustee Olson.
Here.
Trustee Merrill. Here. Trustee Holmes.
Here.
Trustee Reister.
Here.
President Frisbee.
Here. So we have a quorum. Mr. Trustee Wagner and Trustee Keller are both excused tonight. And we have an agenda in front of us. I want to make one change. Mr. Fredericks couldn't be with us in our action items in 10A, so we'll remove 10A and 10B, and we'll bump up to 10A. And
If I can recommend, we'd like to interchange 10A and 10B, but staff will still be recommending the approval of what will be 10B, the West Prairie Street Bridge repairs. So that can come. Mr. Frederick, under scheduled appearance, was going to give an update to the two park projects that have been completed. So that update will come October 3rd. But we'd like to proceed forward with the request on the West Prairie Street Bridge repairs. But since we have Mr. Wassler remoting in on 10B, we'd like to move that to 10A and just flop them.
I just flop them, right. So is there any other changes or updates? Any council members have some additions they want to make? Hearing none, we have an approval agenda. What is this council's desire?
President Frisbee, I move that we accept the agenda as submitted.
And Julie Merrill supporting.
Yeah, motion's been made and supported by Trustee Merrill. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? We have an agenda in front of us tonight. Of course, Mr. Frederick couldn't give us an update tonight on the status of the completion of Sunset Lake, Clark Park, and the Pond and Gazebo projects. I'm sure hopefully you all have had an opportunity to look at them. And we have any public officials on the line, Jim? Anybody wants to speak?
No, sir, we do not.
So that takes us to citizens' comments. For agenda items only, as you see the printed agenda, if it can relate to that, you can speak now. If not, later, you'll have a open opportunity to speak. So we have any citizens that would like to speak to the agenda tonight? Do we have anyone online, Jim?
If anyone online, the instructions were put out, they would just move the cursor under the raised hand. We do have people online. I do not see anyone indicating they wish to speak, but.
Yes, ma'am, if you would approach the podium and please state your name and address.
Clark. I live at 216 West Washington Street. My property butt ends at the creek at Clark Park. And as far as I know, you're thinking about having it where people can come and drink. Social district there, all through the park, gazebo, walk through. Well, I lived here in Vicksburg just a little bit by myself back in the day. My daughter graduated, went to Sunset, graduated from Vicksburg High School. She was awarded as John Philip Sousa. Her name is on the wall. I moved to Kalamazoo, and then I moved back when I retired. I moved back because it was quiet. I liked it, peaceful. Clark Park was a bonus. You sit in your thoughts, dogs, babies, everybody playing. If you open it up and make it like Vickers Landing Motorcycle Night, that would be in my backyard every night instead of like if I'm open for, special events. But I don't want my motion lights going off all the time, people coming up, seeing the house, trying to just fight garbage. I pick it up enough now, so I really hope you don't do that, but just special events, because I don't want that in my backyard. Would you? And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Clark. Appreciate it. Hearing no other comments, we'll close the citizens' time. We have an approval of general consent agenda in front of us. We have the minutes from our last meeting, August 15, 2022. Warrant reports totaling $630,000, $267.18. Event request, kickoff celebrating 150 years of the village activities, friendship events. Will start October 15th of 2022. We're going to close Main Street from Prairie to Washington and Prairie Street, Michigan to Kalamazoo. We'll have food trucks, magical displays, old tractors, farmer markets, etc. from 3 p.m. to 8:30. We have Iceberg Festival, closing of Main Street and Prairie. That'll move into February 11th of 2023. And the Historic Village Pavilion Barton graduation party. Everyone's had an opportunity to review the minutes. Was there any corrections or comments?
President Frisbee, I'd like to know more about the Iceberg Festival. We just have a basic outline. What is it going to totally entail?
I think there's a lot more to come on that. They were just trying to get the window and schedule the time for that time slot and the temperature. We anticipate it being cold enough to do ice sculptures, but
Okay.
Yeah, they're going to have a active day of family activities. It's led by the Chamber of Commerce, and I anticipate meetings to gain more detail on that will occur probably after the October 15th meetings are complete and that type.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
certainly keep it on your radar. There'll be more to come on it, Denny. So we have a consent agenda in front of us, if anyone is willing and to make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by trustee Reister, seconded by trustee Olson. We'll do a roll call, please, Mr. Wines.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
Trustee Olson,
Yes.
Trustee Merrill. Yes. Trustee Reister,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you. So we have some action items in front of us. As Village Manager Mallory said, we're going to move right into the presentation of the water system improvements.
Yes, sir. And we have Jason Wassler, the Vice President of Pry Newhoff, remoting in from Pry Newhoff, who is going to be available to say a few words as well as answer questions from the Village Council. This came about as the council is aware. We submitted a grant request to Kalamazoo County, reference their ARPA dollars. That grant request focused on lead lines, the Clean Water Act of 2018 from the state of Michigan. In that, what that placed on local communities is an unfunded mandate if your water system had did not meet the parameters, whether it was galvanized or et cetera, under the lead line rules, to over the next 20 years to have all of those lines replaced. So we've been looking for funding that will assist the village on round numbers. It's between 550 and 600 locations. So far we're up to, I believe it's in excess of 80 that we have replaced. And that's what motivated us to submit for this. We submitted it under the basis that we would match it with $1.2 million. Part of that match, our match, will be the $366,000 of ARPA money that the village. So we're at a funding gap that will be working with looking at USDA or other opportunities in the realm of $800,000. So the short story is, for $800,000, the village will be able to invest $2.4 million. It'll be somewhere between 75 and 80 residents that will come off of the area that we've identified to have the most impact for the dollars is north of the middle school on those streets. So what the council has within its packet is Prine Newhoff's proposal, and that is for their involvement, and Jason can correct me, but through designing this system on the water improvements, water mains, etc., moving from a 4-inch water main to an 8-inch main. We'll put the system under our right-of-way under sidewalks instead of roads. So if we have issues, we won't be tearing up roads. We'll be tearing up sidewalks in the future, and we'll be impacting in a very positive way for the village for 1/3 of the cost. So it's an amount not to exceed $104,800 on the total $2.4 million project, but it's the engineering oversight we need. On a side note, I've expressed multiple times in council meetings and to, I think, every council member individually, the appreciation and respect I have for Jason and his team at Prine Newhoff and their guidance in this last infrastructure project, which was invaluable to us and staff. So I think I'll turn it over to Jason if he has any comments, and then he'll be available on the screen to answer any of your questions or clarifications from the council that might have. So Jason?
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Don't have a lot to say. You did a great job summarizing that, but I think it is great news that the village is getting this $1.2 million through the county. I'd like to compliment Jim for adding the match to that application, because I think that had a lot to do with it. So congratulations to the village on getting that grant. And like Jim said, our plan is to focus basically north of Prairie and east of Richardson in that neighborhood. I think we'll get about 70%, maybe a little bit higher, of the remaining houses in that area that are still served off of water mains that were constructed back in the 30s. So it's really good news. And like Jim said, the proposal that we prepared and that is in front of you is for taking the project through the design phase, working with staff to identify which blocks in that neighborhood is the top priority, and then getting it all the way through the bidding process.
Yeah, one thing if I could add, and Jason, correct me on this, but I believe in our conversations, I think it's important to note, the reason we're putting the engineering services in front of the council at this time is yet within this fall season, before winter hits, we can start the surveying of that area that needs to be completed as the system is designed and prepped to go out to bid. And again, we're looking at a construction season in the spring, summer of 2024. A lot of this material right now is anywhere from 10 to 15 months out on lead time. So that's why we're bringing the engineering services in front of the council tonight for approval to start that process.
Yeah, that's right. For some reason, the water system materials that are commonly used that we used to be able to get just on stock or in stock at any supply yard is, like Jim said, up to a year out. So we'd like to get the design done and get it ready to bid, and then determine the right time so we can get the biggest bang for your buck.
One of the things I think we need to also present is the fact that it's going under the sidewalk. So in that area, it's going to be all new sidewalks, right? That's been a major concern of some of the residents in the past. So I think you'll see that as this whole process progresses through the village. So. Yes, sir.
Correct, very similar to the gas project currently going on that's, we had under the sidewalks, thus new sidewalks. Go ahead, Mr. Holmes.
I think many of us are well aware of the sensitivity to water and sewers in the village, and especially since the most recent infrastructure project that we had for the last 18 months or so. And so the one point I would like to make, and then I have a question, is this, and that is, I want to make sure that we all understand what Manager Mallory did here. We had no assistance on this, folks, zero from the county. Our county commissioner offered zero support. And this man took it upon himself to network with various governmental agencies and individuals within the county level. And that's exactly what a village manager should do. He didn't manage the 4 squares within our village. He got out and he found this money. $1.2 million. Do you know what our enterprise fund for water is every year? It's about 1.6 million, isn't it, Mr. Mallory, around there and some change? Put that in perspective. We are being provided by the county $1.2 million to fund replacing lead lines, which the state is requiring us to do. It's an unfunded mandate. So I don't mean to be dramatic or over the top here, but I really think it's important to recognize and commend the village manager for what he did here, because it's exceptional service to this community, and I applaud him for it. So thank you, Jim. I have a follow-up question, and that is, as it relates to, and maybe Jason or Joan, we know that a few years back with the SAW grant, we were able to go and look at our water and sewer lines and to identify their shape of them. What did we need to do? And we identified that we had about, I believe the number is 30 million in critical repairs that were needed immediately. We could only fund a third of that. Put that in perspective. My question is, Jim, is that as it relates to the repairs we're talking, are any of those been identified as critical areas? That main water line, is that in question? Do you know?
Yes, when we did the analysis, and again, we'll turn it over to Jason if he has anything to add, but I say that loosely, I asked Jason, his team created layers within our system. So when we met, Jason and I, we looked at age of the water main, we looked at critical factors such as water main breaks, and this was village-wide, looked at where we could most accurately predict the individual residents would need their services updated, thus impacting. So there's about 6 layers within this mapping system that we had hard copies. So we went through that process and determined in our village-wide, that this would have the most positive impact. And as Jason said there at the end, the water mains in this area of town were installed between 1932 and 1935. So they're 4-inch mains that over the course of those 90 years aren't a true 4 inches anymore. We know that. And we know that because they were the same era of lines that we replaced the services on Prairie Street. I will, because it so much comes in area of infrastructure, the SAW grant focused only on sewer. That's what we cameraed in that. You are absolutely right on the numbers. That identified $31 million of critical needs to a system, I think, valued over $100 million. And that's where we invested what we did, about a little over 10 million in that last project. And, you know, we'll continue to look at, I know it was publicly announced, but the $3.7 million that we received from the Economic Development Agency about 6 weeks ago is all dedicated to a sewer project. That'll be about, on the cost of that sewer update, will be between, depending upon the bids, 35% and 40% paying for it. So hopefully that
So not only is there the 1.2 million, not only is there not the 1.2 million that we're talking about, but not to get in the weeds on another subject, but it's fair to point out that as we continue to look beyond our feet and realize that we have an old village, folks. We have a lot of repairs that are needed and only a limited amount of money to work with it. And again, the point that Jim just made is that we're looking out 3, 5, 10, 20 years, and he just identified that Jim was able to, again, work with our governmental agencies in securing millions of dollars in money for our community. And so, again, I don't want to be too complimentary tonight, but I do want to let it be known, though, that again, Jim, good job on both of those points. Thank you.
You're too late from the compliment standpoint. Yeah, I just want to get some clarity, right? Our Commissioner, John Giesler, voted in support for the funding, so let's not take anything away from that group. Was there any other questions we had for Mr. Wassler while we have him on the line? No, hearing none, and thank you, Jason, I appreciate it. We have a motion in front of us to enter into an agreement with Prime Newhoff to be our engineering eyes and ears for this project. The total of $104,800. So what is this council's desires?
Trustee Holmes, I make a motion that we allow the village manager to enter in an agreement with Prime Newhoff not to exceed the budgeted $2.4 million for the project.
Trustee Olson, I second.
Mr. Frisbee, if I can, before any votes taken, I know Mr. Keller has remoted in. If Mr. Keller wanted to make comments, he certainly can make comments. He cannot vote on any action items tonight, but Mr. Keller, if you just unmute, then I'll know or Mr. Frisbee will know that you'll want to make comments, and I don't know if you can go on camera or not, but can you hear us, Carl?
I even raised my hand.
There he is.
Yeah, go ahead, Carl, with comments.
I just, obviously I'm remoting from home because I'm under the weather, and I want to be a good steward and not get anybody sick. So,
Thank you.
yeah, I think this is awesome news for the northeast side of the village. I've stated several times that, this is the older part of town, and sometimes they feel like they're being passed by, so to speak. And I think this is awesome that we're gonna focus on that area of town because there are a lot of older homes in that area. And I think I know new sidewalks will be much appreciated when it's all done for those people too. So it's very, very good news for the village in general.
Thank you, Carl. So we have a motion in front of us by Mr. Holmes, seconded by Trustee Olson. Would you do a roll call, Mr. Wines?
Trustee Reister,
Yes.
Trustee Olson,
Yes.
Trustee Merrill,
Yes.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes, motion carries. Thank you, Jason.
Jason, you and I spoke, but I don't think any of the council members will be offended if you go ahead and click off now as we continue on with the meeting.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So you wanted to speak to item B, was
Yeah.
street repairs, bridge repairs?
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting, because I've had two people last month comment to me on the status of that bridge down there, questioning. And you guys are already on top of it, so
Those
thank you.
pictures really look-
Yes, it's another example, and I won't steal Mike's thunder for October 3rd, but even on the improvements or maintenance to the park, I mean, the financial side of it's excellent news as well. So just having Mike Frederick and his team as the representative representing the village on some of these smaller projects is really paying off. It's obviously physically noticeable, the concrete on the south side there at the ponds on Prairie Street. We did ask Mike and his team to take an initial look and give us a proposal, and within the packet, the council had some of the photographs and in that, and the initial proposal is in front of you as well. The scope of services is 6 identified points, performing a site visit on the structure more in depth, and take additional photographs, measurements to aid in a structural evaluation, prepare a schematic plan of the structure, provide a short-term repair plan consisting of concrete patching, concrete replacement, crack repair, and similar work, provide recommendations for materials and other details as appropriate, as well as a construction plan detailing the short-term repairs. Ultimately, to develop a cost estimate for short-term repairs and the replacement of the structure, as well as the anticipated long-term plan for the structure. You can see the timeline is a field analysis in October and deliverables in early November, with a long-term plan detailing the cost and necessary steps, if necessary, to replace. Step 2 is submitting those cost on short-term repairs in early November, and complete the short-term repairs if that met council approval yet in November. The cost tonight in front of the council is to get us through step 1, and that's an amount not to exceed $7,800, and staff is recommending the motion, support, and approval of that request.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Jim, looking at these pictures, I was just absolutely stunned when I looked at these, because I had no idea that it was in such bad repair. So they feel like they can repair this?
Yeah, so, yes.
Okay. Because it looks like it's ready to fall down. Thank you.
You'll see it when you go kayaking.
Yeah, well, I won't be doing that. Yeah, right. I couldn't believe it when I saw the pictures.
President Frisbee, if I can.
Yes, sir, please.
Jim, how old is the bridge again?
That I don't have in front of me, but it would be definitely pre-1930. But from the initial look, cosmetically, I would agree with Trustee Reister, but they're fairly confident that,
Okay.
and they are 100% confident it's not close to any failure, and we're confident that this will, and we also provided the bio of the engineer that has an extensive background in looking at bridges to do that more comprehensive analysis.
I think if you look at the bridge, really the part that I would consider what I would think of as a bridge is very small. It's where the pictures are at. Most of it's like a berm, and it's holding back that mill pond that's there. So I can understand why they think they can do that, because over the years you're driving on dirt. It's what you're driving on instead of driving over a bridge span. So that kind of makes sense. But I agree with Trustee Reister. When I saw those pictures, it was a little disconcerting, to say the least.
Yeah, we'll get to that point. A little later, you'll have an opportunity. Thank you. So we have the short term in front of us. Is that just an evaluation of where we stand for that cost of?
It takes us through step 1, which includes having the engineer come in. And then in early November, the short-term repairs, those estimated costs will be put in front of the council. We anticipate the first Monday in November, with those short-term repairs being Weather Cooperative able to invest in and complete in the month of November.
Well, we have a request in front of us for $7,800 to enter an agreement with Frederick's Construction to do the engineering analysis and short-term repairs on the West Prairie Street Bridge. You have any other discussions or questions of staff on this? Barring what we've read?
Jim, one last question is, in realizing the fence that's there, this is more of a cosmetic question, but is it possible that that fence will be updated as well to match the existing fence inside Prairie and Main?
You're talking about the white fence?
Yeah, the white fence.
Yes.
Any other questions of staff? Entertain the council's desires on this request.
President Frisbee, I make a motion to allow the village manager to enter into an agreement with Frederick's Construction Company for repairs of the Prairie Street Bridge not to exceed $7,800.
Trustee Olson, I second.
We have a motion by trustee Holmes, second by trustee Olson. We'll do a roll call, please. Mr. Wines?
Trustee Merrill,
Yes.
Trustee Reister,
Yes.
Trustee Olson,
Yes.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. Next on the agenda, we have playground mulch for the Sunset Lake Beach Park and Clark Park.
Yes, once we started the two areas of improvement, both in Sunset Lake Park and Clark Park, the observation deck, we were looking at the underneath both play structures, the conditions underneath, and we knew that it's been more than 6 years since we've invested in that area. So we worked with the schools to identify different companies that offered that type of cover, which was safe and fit under play structures. Through that bidding process, Superior Ground Cover came in. There was one variable that I'll let the council know, and that was the amount of money for the ground cover, this mulch, was in a competitive way, but the difference between Superior Ground Cover is they're doing the labor of the installation with their equipment. So to have our DPW crew of 5 do these 2 locations, which are 160 yards of mulch with their equipment, would be over a 2-day process, which on payroll and benefits alone, we're going to be in excess of $2,000 when you add the equipment as well. So that is why we are recommending Superior Ground Cover, because of the fact they offered an amount to take on the labor and installation of this that'll take them about a day and a half, and that's what they do for a living. So we're asking for a motion and support for an amount that will be $6,400 and include the labor. We will in the third quarter make a amendment if needed in Parks and Recreation, as this wasn't an originally budgeted item, but we felt with the investment that we're making in those 2 parks, this would be one more step to match the observation deck and the boardwalk that have been updated.
Will they be removing what's there now before they put down the new?
What I will describe as pea gravel in Clark Park will be removed by DPW because of the value of that currently. So we'll be storing that and either looking at if we have uses within the village or possibly selling that to a landscape company that could use it due to the value. and the Sunset Lake covering is, my words, deteriorated or really will be just put over. And I think it's a 5-inch. So it'll be this, they'll both be, one will be removed and the other will be there and covered.
All right.
Jim, is this the synthetic or rubber mulch?
No, I'm contacting the elementary schools within the school system, and actually Randy Skippers and I went and talked to the playground directors, if that's their title. It would be wood bark type, but it's designed for playgrounds. The feedback we got on the recycled tires was that if the color, regardless if it's brown or black, that color comes off on the kids' clothing and on their hands. And that's why the schools is kind of transitioning into this other cover that we're recommending tonight.
And one other question, and that is, I'm trying to remember, as far as in our capital budget, or at least in discussions, are we looking at replacing the playground equipment in Clark Park in the near future?
Clark Park, a makeover of Clark Park is on the CIP plan in the 25-26 fiscal year. That plan's updated each January when we present the results of the previous year's audit and then ask for commitments or assignments. So as we stand as of the last presentation, I'm pretty confident it's in 25-26. It might be in 24-25, but at that point it'll be looked at. We are looking at, due to it's a input I received, especially the last two budget cycles when we had the individual neighborhood Zoom meeting where citizens in that, pickleball and kids under 10 updated play structures are the top two requests. So we're also looking at identifiable areas in the village that we could expand our park services in that, what makes sense. And we'll probably, I definitely anticipate in this fiscal year presenting to the council a location, and then we're going to try to determine different funding avenues to look at that.
Any other questions of staff? Well, we have a request in front of us for price not to exceed $6,400 to enter into a contract with Superior Ground Cover. What is this council's pleasure?
I'll make a motion to support that.
Reister, support.
Motion made by trustee Merrill and support by trustee Reister. We can do a roll call, please, Christian.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
Trustee Reister,
Yes.
Trustee Olson,
Yes.
Trustee Merrill,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you. We've got item D on the agenda, pavement striping.
Yes, this has to do with a contract with PK Contracting. They were the striping company in this last infrastructure with the downtown striping. We did solicit bids. One thing we're noticing is due to the busyness of different companies in their response to the request, PK Contracting, what we're also looking at is the overall plan of the village to expand where crosswalks are placed and attempting to make strides or improvements in the walkability and comfort of safety level to get people to walk to the downtown. So these crosswalks are focused on 3 different locations on 22nd Street, which we know through data analysis of other communities will help slow traffic down in a natural way, as well as a crosswalk on Boulevard Street, coming across Prairie, which gets to the sidewalk that would lead right down crosswalks on Prairie and Boulevard, and then Highway Street as well, to update all the crosswalk paintings within the village on Highway Street crosswalks. Again, focused on Sunset Lake Beach, the park there, update of all the striping for the parking that goes in there. The parking, just as a reminder to the council, the parking lot for Clark Park and the associated striping was approved within the 22-23 fiscal year and was completed, I think, within the last 2 months, maybe 6 weeks. So that parking off of Washington Street is all new pavement and striping already at that park. The pavement of the parking area up at Sunset Lake is in fine condition. This is just updating the striping of that parking, which by memory of the institution is in excess of 10 years old. So this is to enter a contract not to exceed $5,627.08.
Yes.
Jim, I'm wondering, I haven't been down Washington going west, but have you restriped that new street now? Because that is so difficult when you go down and around corners.
Yeah, that striping is part of the infrastructure project. They could be waiting on these last items that we need for the Washington Street lift station.
Oh, okay.
We did have DPW go on Washington Street to weed whack the easement yards. And those yards, that company knows, need to be restored by the end of October, and well before we're asking for the growing period in that. But I'll check on the striping.
Yeah, it's really helpful on that
Sure.
street in particular.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If it's not done, I can do a change order within this contract to do the non-infrastructure portion. And it's PK who has that subcontracting bid in the infrastructure, so.
I guess that's a segue for what is the latest anticipation of that diverter valve for Washington Lift Station?
We had a meeting 2 Fridays ago, and it's still early October, we're told. So, and at that time that's put in, will the drain field or in Clark Park, those pipes will be installed as well to help that drain by the play structure.
All right.
Jim, question regarding the crosswalks. If the new crosswalks have kind of a very unique, I'm trying to think what to call it. It's a unique surface that's on it. I'm just curious from your vantage point, from what you've been told, how that wear is relative to your normal striping on a road.
We're hopeful that all the early indications where it's been placed before, that it wear, because that color is heated through that asphalt. So any part of that were to come off, it's same color going all the way through the whole thickness of that asphalt.
That's good.
So.
Any other questions of staff? Hearing none, we have a request in front of us to enter into a contract with PK Striping for price not to exceed $5,627.08.
I make a motion to allow the village manager to enter into a contract with PK Contracting to not exceed $5,627.08.
Trustee Olson, I second.
One thing I did not mention, the funding for this is going to be state of Michigan money. It will not be general fund money, so it'll be, so.
Well, I wouldn't have been delaying so much, I'd not. So we have a motion by trustee Reister, support by trustee Olson. If you do a roll call, Mr. Wines, please.
Trustee Olson,
Yes.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
Trustee Merrill, Trustee Reister,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Motion carries. We'll move to item E, DPW building fence.
Yes, this item was a part of the 22-23 fiscal year budget presentation, was approved by the village council in the amount of $12,500. We went through a competitive bid process tonight. Staff is recommending the motion, support, and approval to have the village manager enter into a contract with Farm and Garden Company off Staples Street. This will be on the north side of the length of our property. Will be a vinyl fence to be another component to as we go through about a 3 fiscal year process of getting that property in shape and in both looks and in usability.
So this was covered on our previous fiscal year, so you're
This-
just asking for
This
resolution
was
support?
presented within the budget as a line item, and specifically presented under the Department of Public Works. But with the village policy, anything above $5,000 returns to the council for the individual bid process to confirm that it occurred. And now this is for the expenditure of that money.
Thank you, because it did look very familiar when,
President Prisby, I have some questions and
yes,
comments.
please.
Yes. As many of you may or may not know, I have 2 brothers that have been in the fence business for over 20 years. When hearing this and reading this, I called my brother JJ, which several of you know, and he just installed 100 panels of this vinyl fencing, plastic fencing, and he is very much against it, as I am. I don't have a problem with replacing the fence. The PVC vinyl is one of the cheaper ways to do it. Trouble is, it's not strong. This fence can break very easily. He had to replace 2 panels after someone with a lawnmower hit a rock about the size of a 50-cent piece and put a 4-inch hole right through the fence. You don't replace a small piece, you have to replace a big piece. It interlocks with your normal fencing. It's either wire tied or screwed into wood into wood. What we have there right now has been there, I'm sure, for many, many years. And yeah, it's a little rough looking, but at this point, I wouldn't replace it. I'd fix it. We want to replace the gate. I looked at the steel gate today. I see nothing wrong with that gate unless there's something I don't know. I would rather repair what we have present until spring, and hopefully the prices will drop come spring, which I believe they will. Basically, I don't believe in this vinyl fencing. I think it can get blown away. You have to use about 18 to 20 pounds of concrete to put the post in the ground, and once you install it, you can walk up and just sit there and shake that fencing with your hand. In a good windstorm, I've seen these fences destroyed, and we've had 80-mile-an-hour winds here in Vicksburg. Right after I moved here, I had neighbors who lost roofs and fences and everything else. Your chain link fence is going to stand up unless you have a tree fall on it. But I'm against this, not replacing the fence, but replacing it with this material. So.
And just so we're aware, we're talking about, there's a small section that's road frontage that would be, a fence would come down, but the entire fence on the north side of the property was removed for the construction of the building.
Right, you have snow fence there now.
Right.
Yeah.
So.
I have a question. I'm not real fond of vinyl either. And I just wondered what the cost differences were to do an upgrade, because the commercial use that we have, is there a big significant price difference to do something more sturdy?
We were confident with what the bid specs we put out, that it would be appropriate for the property, but if the council has suggestions of what they'd want to look into, we can, understanding that will delay the construction, and but we're confident in the product that we've presented on the use of the product, and Randy Skippers and crew are the ones that evaluated it and solicited the bids.
What is the warranty on the vinyl? I'm just curious.
That I'll have to look into.
This is the first time I'm hearing it's not such a good thing.
I can tell you that the price of wood has gone up. It's doubled. The price of chain link has tripled. Yes, this is why I believe if we can limp through, put up a temporary fence other than the snow fence, repair the woods that are there now. You could probably go right down the street to the postman, and as he is pulling down old sections of fence, at least get some halfway decent boards for free to fix it with. My brother no longer owns the postman. He sold it out, but my nephew still works for that company, and even if their bid came up, I'd have to object because, conflict of interest. But, cheapest way to go would be to bring my brother in, but we're still bringing in conflict of interest. JJ could do it for probably a third of the price, but.
I'm not sure if JJ has a fence company or not, but the bids were solicited by DPW.
Yeah.
Out there and by fence companies.
Right.
And again, we're confident in the product that we're presenting to the council. I support DPW and their evaluation, but
I could make a comment about, I have a vinyl fence that goes around by my garage and around, and I have had absolutely no trouble with it whatsoever. And it's been there now for several years, so it seems to clean up well. I haven't had any problems with it.
Well, therein lies our quandary, right? None of us are professionals at everything. We don't know everything. We have to take the advice of those that we seek to give us information and feedback. I appreciate Denny's comments. I know one way or another little about them. Can't comment on the rigidity of it, the longevity of it, but I just reach to those that we hire to make these recommendations to us. So it's up to the council what they want to do. If they want to ride this out, if they want to see it matched with the new look of the DPW building, it's certainly the call of this council.
Okay, so Randy is good with this. Why is that doing that? Randy is good
Randy
with this.
led the contact of the companies and received the bid and had the communication with them and when they would come to the scene to measure it out. And he presented it to me, and
Okay.
I'm comfortable with it.
Okay, and he's feeling confident about it too, and so.
Absolutely.
Okay.
When we originally solicited bids back in the spring, just to get an idea in the budget presentation, we knew the fiscal year, the cost went up considerably, as Denny said. And one thing that we are not seeing in the supply chain is any immediate future that these costs are going to come down, but rather move in the other direction.
So we have a request in front of us from the staff to enter into an agreement. That's what is this council's desire?
President Frisbee, this is kind of an interesting point because I don't think we've ever reached anything like this before where we're struggling this much. I almost feel that it might be helpful to tab this for additional consideration. I realize staff has done a tremendous job in getting this information. But at this time, for me personally, I would like to make a motion that we move that we move on this, but by the same token, because I respect the opinion being given, but by the same token, I think there's been some valid concerns raised, and that's the only reason why I'm suggesting maybe we tab this for the moment.
Would you ask Mr. Keller if he'd like to speak?
Yeah, Mr. Keller indicated if you'd like to speak. I would ask the council, Mr. Frisbee, then to set the parameters so we invest staff time wisely on what additional information you would want, and we'll have to go out to rebid the project. I'll also inform the citizens. I will put a snow fence up. We have that fence. It will not be in the village's best interest to put a temporary fence up on used material. But
Carl's got his hand up.
Well, seeing as I was asked to comment on this, we're getting too far in the weeds. I look at it as DPW has done the legwork on this. Randy and his guys solicited the information, got the bids together. It's the fence that's around their facility. And if they're comfortable with it, then, you know, I'm yielding to them as far as what they want and what they think is going to be adequate for the needs. I mean, that's the bottom line on it. So I'm not hearing where we would get it done any cheaper. So that's not really the issue. The issue is going to be, it sounds like, that if we kick this can, it's going to be, you know, another month or so. So that's kind of my thoughts on it, just from listening to everybody. I respect everybody's opinions, but I look at it as if Randy and his guys have already done the legwork on it, you know, I yield to them on it.
Thank you, Carl. From my position, I don't know of what would make me feel one way or another more secure in it. So I don't know what I would have to ask of staff to reinforce moving forward on this, right? I mean,
President Frisbee, can I suggest that we move ahead with a motion on it and we vote on it? Yes or no, let the chips fall where they may. If we vote against it, then we go back and get new bids on different material and that. But that's my
is
suggestion.
that a formal motion, sir?
Yes, sir, it is. I move that we go ahead and vote on the fencing.
Support.
We have a motion by trustee Olson, support by trustee Reister. Would you do a roll call, please, Christian?
Trustee Reister,
Yes.
Trustee Merrill,
Yes, but if something came up within 1 or 2 business days, could we relook at it? I just don't know. I don't know if that's possible.
It's either yes or no.
Yeah, it's either yes or no.
was that a yes?
I'll say yes.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
Trustee Olson,
No.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Motion carries. Good discussion.
Yes.
Thank you for all your inputs. So we have a presentation of social district improvements, hours, boundary. And this is from a request of this council last month of the staff to look at what we have in place. There was some recommendations of changes and to go out to other sites, other communities, investigate what's working for them and what's not. So this recommendation is coming from the staff for our review.
Yes, sir. Within that is the social district plans created in order to outline the regulations associated with the establishment of the Village of Vicksburg Social District, which is pursuant to Michigan Public Act 124 of 2020. That act is covered under MCL 436.1551. Pursuant to the act, Michigan municipalities are permitted to establish a social district that would allow for certain common areas where 2 or more continuous licensed establishments, bars, distilleries, breweries, restaurants, and/or tasting rooms could sell alcoholic beverages in designated cups to be taken into the common area for consumption. The implementation of this plan is subject to the Michigan Liquor Control Commission and Vicksburg Village Council input and approval. Certain policies, parameters, and management of and for the district may be altered from time to time, subject to the council approval in order to operate the district in the safest manner possible with the public interest and certain liabilities in mind. Management of and maintenance within the district shall be a collaborative effort by the village staff, the village police department, the village department of public works, the downtown development authority, and each participating establishment of the establishment owner. All questions, issues, concerns, and plan modifications regarding the management of the district will be addressed by the village manager, who will report to and seek input from village council as needed, but no less than twice annually. So we looked at areas in the area boundaries, and one area is the district and common area boundaries shall be designated, which on an attached district and common area map, the boundaries of the district and common areas may be collectively or individually adjusted from time to time at the direction of the village council in order to enlarge or decrease the size of the district or the number of common areas. Council must hold at least one public hearing on the proposed alteration, must find that such an adjustment does not negatively impact the health, safety, and welfare of the public. Unless the village of Vicksburg takes any action to the contrary, all streets in the district shall remain open to traffic and for parking. Smoking is prohibited in the common areas during operational social district hours except in designated smoking areas, and alcohol's consumed in those areas. The one we list off, of course, doesn't change is the establishment within the areas. But also we have Oswalt Park, the gazebo overlooking Sunset Lake on West Prairie, Liberty Lane east and west to where the lane ends on those, Clark Observation Deck in Clark Park. What we did is we first made contact with each of the individual liquor establishment holders to seek their input and feedback. We made then a collective meeting where we all met together, talking on improvements, what feedback they had gotten on the social district, which were tremendously positive, as well as staff. Our comments from people it's only us in the city of Kalamazoo that offer this in Kalamazoo County. It has been found statewide to be an incredible economic benefit to communities who participate in such a program. We also had communication through the municipal managers in the state of Michigan soliciting input on what they're seeing within their communities. And then specific questions in regards to parks within a social district. There's multiple communities looking for this information, of which came back extremely positive. What communities are seeing, and we have seen, is that people are extremely responsible within the social district, and who we've seen young families utilize Oswalt Park in basic summary, having maybe something to eat with younger children as well as 1 or 2 drinks. That's what communities such as Kalamazoo, Port Huron, and others that responded are seeing within. Port Huron has a large park within their social district, reported no problems, and very responsible people participating. One thing on any increase is after we receive data, we firmly believe through our research and in looking at this that it will be a very positive thing for Vicksburg. We certainly value the input of the neighborhood, and we'll continue to have that dialogue with the neighborhood. This isn't, if supported by the council, is not a decision that lives to infinity. If in any area within the social district we're determined has a negative impact, we would just come back to the council and end up removing it. So the other areas that are recommended to increase is the west sidewalk that goes south of Washington Street in front of Silo Chics retail establishment, the alleyway north of Prairie Street, which we envision there'll be multitude businesses that might be using that for a dual entry purpose, but it also it stretches between Main Street and Kalamazoo Avenue, and then, as I mentioned, the observation deck of Clark Park and the park itself. Part of what we looked at Clark Park that we know will aid in is we're going to have an appropriate arborist or expert in trees look, because we want to raise the sight line a little bit, so there's some branches to improve the cosmetics of the park. We'd also look, when I say lighting, this would be, and Mr. or Trustee Keller would know the vernacular I'm probably looking for, but it's not a bright light that would be put in as well as it being on a timer that would shut off, just as the lights are in Oswald Park. The other areas that we're looking that we felt would improve is not only the boundaries but the hours of operation. And our recommendation to the council is to, currently the hours are between 4 p.m. and 10 p.m. For serving a customer a social district beverage, and that social beverage cups within the district cannot be after 11 o'clock p.m. And we're proposing to expand that 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. each night of the week, with, again, that 10 p.m. is the last time establishments can serve a social district cup, and the social district shuts down at 11 p.m. And we just, one is a consistency. We evaluated to have, if you had different hours on different days, it allows for confusion. So to have one consistent time, not only for the establishments, their employees serving the drinks, the customers receiving them, our staff for knowing when it's opened or cut or shut, and all of that, it works best to have the consistent times, and we believe it'll be a significant improvement to have it 12 p.m. to 10 p.m. being able to serve, with the district closing at 11 p.m. The other item we believe will have a positive economic impact in our downtown is to give each individual business within the social district the ability to allow or not allow social district cups within their establishment. So we, in the same type of boundary signs, we would propose the individual stores would have this to be able to display. We've all seen where a suction cup would be, where they can present this by the window of entry. Welcome, drinks allowed inside. There might be an event, they don't want the drinks inside. So the flip side is, please note, no drinks allowed inside, but to allow those individual business owners that ability within their businesses. And I'll pause there for specific questions.
Okay, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this since it has been brought up. And I don't understand the expansion of hours. I don't know anybody who would be going down at 12 noon from 12 to 4 for a social hour. They're working. And so I don't understand the expansion of the hours, number one. I also am very concerned about expanding into Clark Park, because I think that there are residential people, we had somebody here tonight talking about it, and thinking of myself having a home along there, I would not like that. I literally would not like it. So I wonder how many people have we talked to on that street to find out how they're feeling about this?
I talked to Julie Merrill, who went down there and had multiple conversations with people who live there.
And what were the responses?
The response was concerns. I talked also to Tammy Hamilton. Part of the information was like, well, are you planning? We have had on Main Street different activities, including individual guitar players to full bands. There is no intention at all to place a band in Clark Park. There's not Power One, but there's just no, that isn't any of the motivation. The motivation is it would be an area where other communities have experienced green space, where individuals or families can hang out in a safe environment and be responsible. We don't have indication from the communities we've contacted that large groups are gathering or attempting to have parties in that. So I understand the concerns, and that's where I emphasize we'll always have an open line of communication. And if there was an incident or incidents, it can be retracted. But this is the largest green space available within our downtown that is still connected on the hours.
I have a question though about that.
Okay.
When you talk to these other places, were they in residential areas? We have a very unique situation here where we have residential very close to commercial.
Right.
And I'm wondering if these other places that you talk to, if they have residential people right in their backyard.
I can't say in every one that came up. All staff is this park is available. It's a public park for anyone to gather at any time currently. The only thing that we're changing is the ability for someone to purchase an alcoholic beverage in a social district cup and hang out in that green space. So whether it's noise, litter, all of that could still happen. So the impact of adding one's ability to have a social district cup, we just could not find any data that demonstrates that would rise to a level that is going to disturb that neighborhood to the magnitude that they envision. And again, if that were to occur, we can come back and opt that area out. I'm confident in the ability of staff in the police department and people we've watched participate in our social district that this won't be a concern in Clark Park. And then on the hours is we've just seen that would people use it? I think they would use the social district between 12 and 4 because not everyone works a traditional work week, and those that go down for lunch, it aids in the economic vitality of those businesses that participate in this, as well as being consistent throughout the week. So we certainly would see that on the weekends, and argumentatively the other days. So that's the motivation of ours. In all of this, and the whole tool of a social district really is created in this environment that we live in, where people like walkability, a safe environment, and it's an economic tool specific to our community. You know, someone in Portage has to, if they want to participate in a social district, has to decide if they're going north to Kalamazoo or south to Vicksburg currently. It's our hope that they'll find more reasons to come south to the village of Vicksburg. And when they participate in the social district, they'll find these other, since we've started the social district, we have at least 4 small locally owned businesses that have invested in starting within our community.
I just want to make sure that we don't put economics ahead of residents and their concerns. That is my major thing here, is that I think that thinking about economics is extremely important, and what we've done so far has been very important. But I think that we need to think about the residents also when we're doing this. This is just.
I absolutely agree with you. I hope my actions have always demonstrated that. It's one reason I stay in the village of Vicksburg. You have the ability to impact individual residents in a positive manner is
Okay.
far
and
greater.
So you're telling me that if they started having problems in Clark Park, you would shut it down?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm giving on two fronts. I to the whole council and the residents. This wasn't gone. This endeavor wasn't taken with blinders on. It's also why I didn't transfer it to staff. It worked with Andrew Horn, and through the manager's listserv solicited other communities' opinion. And if I felt that it would be a likelihood that adding Clark Park caused us grief, I wouldn't do it. I'm looking at what goes on. I think that Trustee Merrill relayed to me, so did Tammy, that the situation that was brought up within the last year of Vickers has improved. It might not be to what Tammy ultimately wanted when she first moved here, but she's in the room. She, on the phone call, said after the police chief made contact, she has certainly appreciated the improvement. So it's two different subject matters that kind of got intertwined there. As far as the social district, it's in my professional opinion, that one, we're not going to see those problems, but I'm also giving this council my word, if we do, it's just another procedure. We move back.
Okay.
The boundary.
Okay.
You know.
I'd like to jump in. I just made a couple notes. I forgot my phone, but I walked around the new proposed social district and made like 5-minute recordings of the music Saturday night. And there was a birthday party, and I think I saw you walking too, but I didn't flag you down. Anyway, I kind of walked around, and it was really weird. The music was super loud at 10:30, and I was standing by the drugstore, the pharmacy. And for some reason, I get that noise in my apartment. It's like there's a speaker shooting there. So back to the
You're
social
saying,
district.
can I just ask, noise from an
Vickers
establishment?
Landing, and there was a party going on. And at that point, I filmed it, and there's only about 10 cars there. And I thought, why is it blaring when there's only about 10 customers outside? and it was a slow night. I left my phone at home. I hardly ever carry it. But anyway, so I just kind of did snippets at 8 o'clock, and then I got off my butt and walked around at 10:30. And I feel safe walking around town. But what I wanted to say about the boundaries, the social district, they stopped serving at 10 o'clock. The parking lots are not supposed to be a place where a person can drink. And what I see across from Vickers Landing is bikers' night. Bikes parked there. In fact, they've damaged the parking lot. And what I foresee is the biker night and drinking, walking across that narrow artery, like people are going to the grocery store on Prairie and Michigan. It's hard to physically walk across it sometimes. It's a real busy spot. It's just really busy. Like when a train comes and pauses traffic, you get a lot of hubbub of activity exactly between Vickers Landing and that little parking lot. So the parking lot, so people wouldn't drink in that parking lot because parking lots are off limits.
Correct.
So
That's correct.
I'm looking
That
at
would
this
not be-
picture, and anyway, the carrying drinks across that intersection, there's no light. I'm just saying it's busy. It's probably one of the busiest intersections. And so when you're at the observation deck, then there's the mortgage company. It's about a 50-foot lot. And then you're in Bob Ritchie's backyard, which I didn't go into his backyard, but I recorded from there. And it's really quite loud. He's on oxygen. He's not here tonight. These guys didn't know they were supposed to speak at the beginning at number 8. They didn't understand that. But it's on Clark Park. There's 8 residential properties, and they were the ones who came and complained on April 18th, asking for assistance with noise. So I'm thinking, why let the horse out of the barn when we haven't controlled these noise issues to the extent, like it was pretty loud Saturday night.
I'm not sure on Saturday, but the
There weren't that
the
many people
issue
in town, and I
that-
thought, why is it so loud?
the issue in front of the council on social district is not associated with music at Vickers, because regardless of the social district being expanded or not, that topic doesn't change. And the feedback I received, again, is there's been improvement and steady. It's been consistent that this summer has been improved since April. And the feedback I get internally from our police chief is the owners of Vickers are, and I think you told me in our phone
I talked to
conversation, that they're very respectful of wanting to be a valued partner within our community. So when the police chief talks to the owners, he receives positive, and I believe you had a positive experience you relayed to me when you spoke with Jack.
When I talked to Jack, he said he was doing what he could do, and he said that he didn't like getting the police called on him, but that's their only recourse.
I agree. That's and they have that service. But I guess my point, and then I'll let you guys talk, is
Okay.
those points on Vickers are not connected to the social district.
Okay,
The
so
bikers night, the noise concerns are not connected to social district. Those concerns were not created because there is a social district, nor will they be improved or get worse because of the social district. So in that mechanism is the same. When this village agreed back when that changed from a bank to a liquor establishment, the village agreed to have those hours go to 11 in a commercial district. So within those parameters that was set up, I hope it continues to be an improvement. I think an interesting comment I've had with many people is, it's a simple fact. This village is not the village it was 10 years ago or 20 years ago or 30 years ago, and it's not going to be unless you want entropy to come in, because we need a safe, walkable environment, and we need people who respect receiving input from citizens, and when that input's given by the neighborhood, we'll continue to have those conversations, and everything that we've had with the establishment is they'll respond in a positive manner.
Excuse me. So were these 8 residences that are on Mill Street, Washington Street, and Michigan Street, there's only 8 or 9. There isn't that many. It's just that their backyard, they're used to things shutting down at dusk, and now we're talking 11 o'clock. And what if we expand the social district into Clark Park? The Clark Park generally shuts down at dusk.
Clark Park's open till 11 p.m. as all of our parks.
But they can't use it because there's no light, there's nothing there.
And that might be the same we see if the social district is expanded. All I'm saying is Clark Park is open till 11 o'clock currently, as all of our parks are open to 11 o'clock.
I think Trustee Wagner had asked me about that today. Trustee Keller, would you like to speak, or is Trustee Wagner also? I know he's on.
I've heard concerns from Trustee Reeser, and I've heard concerns from Trustee Merrill. And Manager Mallory is correct. There's 2 issues we're talking about. We're talking about a noise issue that's coming from an establishment versus a social district, which has neither have to do with the other. I mean, it's 2 separate issues.
That's true.
And whether we had a social district or not, with that establishment being there, we potentially are still going to have the same same problems. I would like to know a little bit more about, and the shoebox lighting is the term you're looking for, Jim. It's down lighting only, so it's called a shoebox. But I would like to know more about the type of lighting that looking to do into the park. As far as the operating hours go, I certainly am not going to be going down on a Tuesday afternoon at 2 o'clock, but that doesn't mean something that's working nights or whatever, isn't going to go down for lunch and maybe want to go sit in the park. I could definitely see weekends, expanding the hours from noon to 11 on weekends at the bare minimum. And also special occasions. I know we have Christmas in the Village, we have the Car Festival, we have other things, but those are typically on Saturdays. So it's a very good discussion we're having, but we need to keep in mind that they are 2 separate issues. They're not just combined together. So
one thing that I hadn't mentioned, I don't know if it's clear on the photo provided to council, but the boundary, if you will, within Clark Park is the creek, what I will describe as the significant portion on the west side of the park. They could use the boardwalk that was just repaired to cross over into that section of the park, or they could use the steps or entryway, but the creek would be the boundary. It wouldn't be between the creek and the residential homes. So I just wanted to be clear on that. The other, as you know, On the hours is, we're pretty firm on it being consistent all week. It just clarifies, again, so we would not be recommending certain days or only certain events.
President Frisbee?
Yes, sir. Mr. Olson.
Yes. I'm against expanding into Clark Park. It's family friendly and I want it to stay that way. Now, having said that, there has been discussion in the past that when the mill finally opens, that a path be put down there connecting the mill to downtown. I think at that point, 3, 4, 5, 10 years down the line, we can take a look at it again. But no, I think we're big enough on our social district, and I don't think we need to expand it. I think that we leave it the way that it is and leave Clark Park off the map. So.
I was also going to mention, in talking with my neighbors, basically, I think they were in favor of lights, trimming up the trees, making it safer to walk around. People walk their dogs, they have their kids there, their families and things like that. I think they were all okay with that. It's just the drinking, and they feel like right now that's in their back, literally in their backyard, and people right now aren't hanging out there at 11 o'clock. Even if the hours say 11 o'clock, it's dark. So these people get some peace and quiet who live on that park. And when you jump it up to 11 o'clock and you light it up, even if it's downlit, I mean, that would be okay, just keep the booze out of it. But I don't think they have problems with people coming from the mill someday and peacefully walking through. That's it.
I appreciate those comments. The comment I had, Mr. Olson, I don't think my mic was on, was I didn't know if you had an opinion on the hours. And then while we're at it, the extension, and that's for everyone, on the west side of Main Street, which again, it's a commercial building for that block we're recommending, but it's right next to an R1, and the alley to the north of Prairie Street. So there's multitude of staff recommendations within a resolution. I can adapt a resolution, but if comments on, and I don't know if we want to take each, Mr. Frisbee, of the recommended changes, which A would be expand the operational social district hours, changing the opening of the social district. It changes from 4 p.m. to 12 p.m. each day. The closing time remains the same. B is what's garnered the most conversation on the boundary of Clark Park and the Clark observation deck. C is the boundary to expand the public alley that runs between North and Kalamazoo. We would add, to make sure it clarifies in the resolution, that west side of Main Street by Silo Chic, and then the fourth one is the permit the consumption of social district drinks within non-liquor license holding businesses with this sign. If we want to take kind of a vote on each with conversation on each. And the other, I think, note that changed since we opened the social district legislative wise is before it precluded, if you had a special event in the social district, you had to shut your social district down for that event. Now you can have a special event within the social district, except that area needs to be designated in the area designated of the social district. So it is allowed by legislative oversight since August. But I guess in hearing everything, maybe that's a way to proceed. But
Trustee Holmes an opportunity if he had wanted to speak to it.
Thank you, President Frisbee. It's really interesting sitting here listening to everybody talk and taking into an account citizen comments as well. And what it made me realize is that this is the first discussion that we're having of what we want to be. Because change is inevitable. Look in this community now. Did you think 3, 4, 5 years ago you'd see the changes that we have? Our storefronts are filling up. We are experiencing, you know what we're experiencing? We're becoming a destination community. We have people that want to come here. And if you look, you can go online and see where all of the social districts are, and I have. And I was actually had an opportunity to talk with Ms. Hamilton earlier, and the interesting thing was that when we were talking about Kalamazoo and Vicksburg being the only 2 social districts in Kalamazoo, and it came to me the reason why, and that is because, we're a destination community. People want to come here. And if you talk with the businesses, and I suggest we all do, they're the ones that are wanting to expand their hours, and they're the ones that want more participation because they're getting people here that never came to Vicksburg before. And so I think I can tell you, and someone who has gone to quite a few social districts in this state, I'll be honest about it, I've yet to experience one where people were not responsible. And I've also have seen them in early afternoons that people are also out enjoying themselves. And I think that's part of being a destination community. And I can share with you my perspective about this. I agree with most of this. I think that the idea of voting on each one of these makes all the sense in the world, President Frisbee. I agree that as far as Clark Park is concerned, it's something that, in realizing citizens' comments and the thoughts that have been put forward, I'm with, I think, the majority here, and that is that I would not be for that at this time, although I do believe, as Trustee Olson said, down the road, you can just look at this map and you can kind of see that it does have a connection with the mill once that opens up, and I think that's something that we have to, look at. But again, I would suggest all of us remember this. How many of you were here when the mill operated in town? I was 50 years ago. I was a kid. It wasn't quiet, was it? Whole lot going on in this town. And if you lived over by there, you heard a lot going on. And that's the thing about this, is that we have to realize this town isn't going to be quiet anymore. And I think to some extent we now have to say, okay, but how are we going to move forward as a community together? And I think you saw that tonight. You saw the pragmatism that existed when we heard comments and we were trying to figure out our path forward. And having said all that, the one question I have, Jim, is as it relates to the social district that opened up May 1st of last year, I believe, what have we seen in any type of increased crime, traffic, incidents, break-in and enterings? I see public safety officers walking the social district when I'm down there. I see them engaging people and letting them know that they're there, and they do it very respectfully. But I'm just curious if you can share with me from that, what have we seen in the last 15 months?
We've seen no notable increase or increase at all. In fact, we have multitude of people live on second floors within our commercial district downtown, and we haven't received one complaint as it relates to social district. We haven't even received a complaint on when we've held what I'll call the special events, the food truck rallies, and that. I think the people that live in that commercial district are seeing how they're managed and seeing the impact on the community. So.
And when you talked with the business owners regarding what they would like to see, what were you hearing from them?
Well, first off, with the establishments, and I'll share one, and I don't think he minds. So Main Street would be one example. I've talked to them all; they're all extremely positive. Michael Moore at Main Street relayed to me in a conversation that it was always yearly the best Friday of the year was always the Friday of car show in their historical record keeping. in that in 2022, that number had been exceeded. We talked, I think it was in July or early August, that number had been exceeded 7 times already this year on non-car show nights. I've talked to all the other restaurant, liquor licensed establishments are up in business. More importantly, we've communicated, and if Alex chooses to, I'll certainly ask him, because he has a pretty good presence downtown and contact with business owners. My interaction with them has been extremely positive on what's going on downtown. And I think to highlight our latest business that's going to open, I was contacted over a year ago by a gentleman who owned a magic store in Colon, Michigan. And I've relayed to the council where, you know, we used to really seek out and try to figure out how to get businesses to this town, if you will, early on. There's not, I'm not exaggerating, not a week that goes by I'm not contacted by someone if we can find them space. And this was a prime example of the community, the direction it's going, our community, the direction it's going on. And he wanted to move a 19-year business to our community to be sure to be a part of it. We were able to suggest locations, and one of those worked out. It just, I haven't received from the business community in any fashion anything negative on it.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions by staff or by the council? You know, going into this, right, the one that just jumped out the most was make it a common time. I've had business owners, council members approach us prior to a meeting. Can we quick get this on the agenda to change the hours? We had the farmers market started early in the afternoon. There was a lot of young people there, a lot of young crowd that would have taken part in it, I'm sure. So obviously, and thankfully, I believe everybody's in favor of moving the hours. Every day, day in, day out, no question. That way we don't have to meet and have a special vote just for, you know, an extension or an approval of an off day. So that would be A. Item B, expand the boundary of the common area to include Park and Clark Park and the observation deck. We have item C, expand the boundary of public alley north of Prairie Street, and then the permit of consumption of social district drinks in businesses and common areas. A and D are the ones that I have gotten the most discussion with. The downtown oopsie daisies and people like that want to take part. We have, right, Mackenzie's and the Paper City want to have these events to be able to draw people in. So I think that one, in my opinion, is what I'd like to see done. Expanding into Clark Park, I think we ought to wait, put that one on the back burner, see how this develops, see how the mill develops. So of the three, you know, item B, I would just strike that. If you want to vote on them each separately, or we could just strike item B from the resolution. If everybody's in, if that meets everybody's desires, we can just make it that clean and cut.
As long as the record reflects really there be an addition, and I'll call it E, so we make sure that it's clear the expansion on Main Street is only the west side of town and ends at the property boundary line of 200/202, I believe it is, South Main, where Silo Chic is.
yeah.
So I'll make sure, and I'll call that E. It was intended, but I don't think in the resolution 0919202201, it's spelled out as clear as it should be. So other than that, it's all what you said, Mr. Frisbee, A, B, C, and D. I would just say I will add to the final resolution E on that section on South Main.
So with that, we'll move into item A, expand the operational social district hours from 12 p.m. to 11 p.m. daily. expand boundary of public alley north of Prairie Street that runs between Main Street and Kalamazoo Street. Permit the consumption of social district drinks with non-liquor license holding businesses within the common area, so long as the business clearly displays signage at the entrance of the establishment indicating that social district drinks are permitted. And then item E, capturing the southern component of Washington. Was that correct? Yes, the southern corner of Washington. We will strike from the resolution the common areas to include Clark Park as well as the observation deck.
I do have one more comment. Jim, on this, under social district logo and beverage containers, the last sentence of that says, district cups may not be reused, must remain in the establishment where they were purchased or in the commons area and may not be taken into any other establishment, including other license holding establishments that did not sell beverages. Is that going to be removed?
Yes,
Statement?
that's under the current plan.
Yeah.
So the resolution, if adopted by the council, will get incorporated into the plan. That's
Okay.
also attached to your packet.
Okay, so that
They
will-
won't be allowed, a social district cup out of the 5 liquor establishments cannot enter another liquor establishment, but the non-liquor establishments will independently be able to choose, and
Right.
through our DDA, we'll be supplying the
Okay, I
signs
just,
to those.
I read that and I thought that's probably got to be
No,
changed.
that, as well as ours in that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Christian, please.
Let the record reflect that's from next door. I have no idea.
I thought Mrs. Mallory was over there. Excuse me, that's a personal joke. I shouldn't do that. So is everyone comfortable with the resolution as revised
Yes. Yes, I am.
with that?
And I just got President Frisbee's personal joke, so everyone should laugh. I'll explain it to you off camera.
Where is that?
I can just, never mind, all right. Okay, so with that, what are the council's desires?
I would like to make a motion to approve Resolution 091-92022-01 as amended.
Trustee Olson, I second.
Mr. Wines, would you do a roll call, please?
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
Trustee Reister,
Yes.
Trustee Merrill. Yes. Trustee Olson,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes.
Okay, that passed what wanted to pass.
Motion carries as.
One other thing I do enjoy about being a small town, you can kind of go off the agenda, and people might wonder, I have a phone in front of me, because now being a grandpa, I have a grandchild at home and kids in town, so with different stuff going on, if I was going to get updated, I said, update me. Well, I just was, and that was Mrs. Mallory, wondering why the village president would ever bring that topic up in a public meeting. And to remind Mr. Frisbee that she's watching.
There is set decorum. I apologize for that.
We can
All
all
right.
imagine what it's about.
And everyone in this room has my word. I'll share with them off camera. All
All
right,
right.
10F, I believe, is our next,
10F.
which is actually an outstanding G, 10G,
10G.
Oh, yeah.
as in Gary.
Is that it?
And this is, we analyzed, we did the fire suppression grant opportunity that was at a larger number for our downtown businesses and had multiple businesses participate that. Historically, we've done facade grants that have been limited to $2,500 and multiple businesses. It's been an outstanding program. But we wanted to look at a new program in which some greater incentives and greater investments being made in downtown the impact of downtown. So this grant program was presented to the Planning Commission DDA group at their last meeting last Monday. It was unanimously supported from that group. Staff is recommending a motion support and approval of the attached property improvement grant program. All businesses within the Downtown Development Association boundaries would be eligible. There would be 4 opportunities for grants. They are at 50%. So one would be at $15,000, 2 at $7,500, and 2 at $3,000. So actually, I think I said 4, but it's 5 opportunities. So basically, a business owner, and we're looking at property improvements that will meet the because of the public funds being used, which are DDA revenue funds, that it has a public benefit. The committee comprised to evaluate the submitted grant applications are the village attorney, village manager, village president, chairperson of the planning commission, and 1 ad hoc member that'll be appointed by the village president with support from the chairperson of the planning commission. So those 5 individuals will be their village attorney and village manager will ensure it meets the parameters of public benefit by legal definition, and that committee will give their recommendations to the planning commission for their support. The planning commission then will present the planning commission results of their support to the council for the expenditure of those public funds. Be it that this first year, and due to the fact of the whole infrastructure upgrade in that this fiscal year, a business can submit a grant under this program as for any project completed after July 1st of 2021. So those projects would be eligible as well. But I'll be happy to answer any questions. I just think it highlights not many small communities are availing this opportunity for businesses in their community like Vicksburg.
Please.
I just wanted to share some comments with my fellow trustees because as your representative on the Planning Commission, this was, as Jim said, an item we discussed and we voted on, and unanimous agreement with this. And you've heard me at times talk passionately about this subject, and it actually, I went back and checked the records, and I think it was in January of 2019 when I first mentioned the idea at this council that it'd be great if we could look at a way to bring public and private dollars together to create opportunities like this. And at the time, I was informed that would be highly unlikely because of all of the issues that there is with this. And that's why I commend Jim and staff for the efforts they've done with this, because there's some hurdles that they had to overcome in order to do this. And the fact of the matter is this: when you look at our Main Street and Prairie Street, from 12 inches down, we're beautiful. We got all new streets and sidewalks, but we need to help the businesses invest in those buildings that are over 120, 130 years old. And so through that's when I look at a program like this, and I really believe that, again, we are being, like to Jim's point, there's not very many communities that are this progressive, that we're really looking out there and trying to extend our hand to the business community, saying, listen, let's work together on this, because, as John DeBalt, who owns Rise and Dine, indicated, not all of them, all businesses have the funds necessary to make those substantial investments in buildings that we've seen. And so with that being said, I just wanted to share those comments with you, that the number of times that we've talked about this at this group, as well as in the Planning Commission, I just think that for me personally, this is a celebratory moment, because this is something that I've always felt highly about, and I thought that it's something that was really a great tool that we can use with the businesses to help them out, so.
Yep, agreed. I give the Planning Commission and the DDA a lot of credit for rolling up their sleeves and looking at what that funding could best serve the downtown area, and I like the direction they're going. So with that, we have a request of village manager to approve the grant program, the improvement grant program.
Mr. Frisbee, I'd like to make a motion that the village manager approve the property improvement grant program as submitted.
Reister, support?
Motion made, trustee Holmes, support by trustee Reister. If you do a roll call, please, Christian. Carl, yes. He's not here. Would you like to speak, Carl, on this before we go to a vote?
No, well, I'm still awake, so,
Barely.
I already burned up one earbud, but, no, I echo what Rick said. I mean, this is an awesome opportunity for the businesses downtown. They've been through a lot the last year and a half or so. And it's a great opportunity for them to be able to utilize some public funds to help them improve their building. So this is an awesome opportunity.
Get better.
Thank you. Would you do a roll call, Mr. Wines, please?
Trustee Merrill,
Yes.
Trustee Reister,
Yes.
Trustee Holmes,
Yes.
Trustee Olson,
Yes.
President Frisbee.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you, and thank the Planning Commission, Jim. So we move on to item 11, the village manager report. He's got some pretty exciting stuff.
Yeah, it was just a highlight. We obviously covered the grant requests that we submitted for the county and received staff approval, the subcommittee approval, and full commission approval, county commissioners approval. On the 1.2 for the water main and lead line replacements, we talked about that earlier. Also, Drain Commissioner Jason Wiersma gets recognition and credit, him and his staff. They had submitted multiple requests under the ARPA funds as well. We did offer and authored and sent a letter of support on the request for the village of Vicksburg, the dam at Sunset Lake. Made a few phone calls, and that was also supported at the county commission level. So that'll be $2.5 million worth of improvements as well coming to this community. And just to remember, we did submit a unique request in that we would administer an opportunity for owner-occupied low-income housing based on energy efficiency improvements up to, I think it was $24,000 per residence over 3 years, with a total of $350,000 of county ARPA funds, and the Vicksburg Foundation had approved to match that $350,000 with $150,000. That approval is we've already received that. We should find out by the end of October if that grant is approved, and then we'll develop the administration of that grant by the end of December and present it to council. And I think we had again mentioned, but federally through the Economic Development Association went through pretty rigid grant opportunity and received $3.7 million, which to my knowledge is one of the most for a community our size across the nation. So that was all good news coming our way. I will, during this time, Trustee Keller asked me to look at the draft fire authority audit, which we have to take action on tonight as well. That was going to be under Trustee Keller's committee report. Staff did look at it, that there are 3 auditing comments that are normal for an organization that size when they don't do their own financial statements. So then your auditor does those year-end adjustments, and in 3 separate locations. They all fit that, but drew new flags. We did look and confirm that it was disclosed that the IT services and product purchasing did go through board members' company, and the board member provided and was compensated for those IT services. It was not at a material level that would have a footnote included in the audit report, but wanted the council to be aware of that. But staff would recommend approving the draft audit as it was presented to us. So that is one action item needed by the council. I turn it over to Trustee Keller if he had any comments, but then if we could get a motion and a support and no money's being expensed, a voice call vote on the approval of the draft audit for the fire authority.
Yeah, Jim, I appreciate you summarizing that for me. Basically, Wednesday night, we have our fire board meeting, and all the entities have to report back whether they support the draft audit or not. So that's, unfortunately, we didn't have a meeting between the last fire board meeting and now, so that's why it's being sent to us tonight, and I have to report on it Wednesday. So as Jim said, there's nothing extraordinary in it. The comments are pretty standard. The issue regarding the IT services, I think we're all aware of anyways. That came up back in January or February, I think, when we were discussing the budget. So, because that was an issue that came up. So that's, I don't want to say old news, but we're aware of it. So if the board could support this so that I can report to them on Wednesday night, I'd greatly appreciate it.
I move that we support the fire authority draft results audit.
Trustee Olson, I second.
Let's just do a voice call. All those in favor of supporting the audit results, say aye. Aye. Those opposed, same. Audit passes. So I will be speaking on behalf of this council at that meeting. We have some very serious things that need to be brought to the table. There needs to be just some discussion about what has been brought up in that audit, and we'll assure everybody we'll have those conversations with that board. Second to that, we can just jump on into the committee reports?
Yes, sir.
How about the tree committee?
Tree committee did meet, and Charlie Krill was there and brought us a couple of sheets of larger trees that we could look at, and also ornamental trees. And we're looking at doing the east end of Prairie right now. And so we're in the process of choosing trees, and so hopefully Carl, and what we're going to do is we're not going to just tell people that they're going to have a tree. We're going to ask if they choose to have a tree. So that's where we are right now. So we're moving forward.
Thank you.
Gail, on behalf of Prairie Street, we appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Parks and Rec.
We had our last meeting August 22nd, and we talked about the repairs to Clark Park, the observation deck, Sunset Lake fishing platform, and the boardwalk, and everything. I think everything's like done, and it looks great. Then we talked about 150 years of being Vicksburg, the celebration October 15th. And there was some talk about a time capsule. I don't know if we're that organized. So
I think there's more to come.
yeah, and so then we also had a debrief about the movie nights that were held at the pavilion where the farmers market happens. And I think those were well attended, and we'll probably do it again next year. And our next meeting is September 26th here at 7 o'clock.
Thank you. So, CATS was canceled due to a lack of quorum. I think when you have 30 members, it makes it difficult if some are gone. Planning Commission, I think we could kind of, could, you can believe that.
Everyone was on vacation. Yeah, the Planning Commission and Planning Commission DDA met last Monday, and as we've already discussed, there was the one thing that we did vote on was the grant program, the restructuring of that. And then the village manager's comments were fairly consistent with what we heard tonight. The one noticeable thing that we did do that I wanted to share with you, again, as the council's delegate to the Planning Commission, is that we also did nominate this year for the positions of chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary. And so that was really neat in that within the committee, you would nominate someone and then someone would second it. And then what we're going to do is vote on those positions at the next council or the next committee meeting. The interesting thing is we have some positions, there's 2 candidates that are nominated. So it will be very interesting to see what happens over the course of the next 30 days. I do want to let you know that I actually nominated someone, and I felt pretty passionate about it, to be very candid with you. And I nominated Tanya DeLong for the position of chair. And I wanted to share with you why, and that is that for those that know Tanya, we know she's a very passionate person about Vicksburg. She's the energizer bunny of Vicksburg, and she was a past DDA director, and she also was a previous business owner. And I just think that her perspective and her wherewithal, she went out in the community and has asked people, you know, what would you like to see? And she surveyed people and talked with them when she joined the Planning Commission. And then lastly, I would say I think it really shows also the village's commitment to diversity. Tanya is the only female that's on the committee. And again, I just think that it would show that we are committed to that as well. So we'll see what happens in a month. But yeah, it's pretty interesting the way that we're approaching it this time.
Thank you, sir. South Kalamazoo County Sewer Authority. So we met Mr. Culper, Tom Culper. He works with Matt Hall's office. He came and spoke on some of the things that the Board Authority is working on. They have a new administrator, Amy Hoskins. She was in training at Pavilion Township. They had an SSO, which sounds pretty serious, but it's a sanitary overflow in Gull Lake area. Interesting news, though, from the Schoolcraft Township approved their component of funding for a feasibility study for the wastewater treatment plant somewhere south of Kalamazoo County. So they're putting their money where their mouth is, I believe. So that was pretty much it for the sewer authority. And fire meets this week, so we'll get a report on that next. So that takes us to citizens' comments for non-agenda items. We say non-agenda items. I think there's some here that wanted to speak to perhaps what we already voted on, but preferably it's for non-agenda items.
We did have someone through Zoom that had indicated with their hand up. I don't know if they've lost connection or not, so let's check after people in the room speak, if this person returns, to give them an opportunity as well.
This would be the time if you would just step up to the podium and your name and address.
My name is Beckett Jones, running for 8th District Court Judge here in Kalamazoo County. I stepped up first because I figured there are some citizens who want to speak directly to some of the things that may have been agenda items, and I don't want to rain on that parade. Basic background on me, I live in Portage. I live basically in the neighborhood connected to the South Portage Little League, just up Sprinkle Road a little ways, so not far from here at all. I have 2 sons, spare time, avid hunter, avid fisherman, have been for a number of years. I actually appreciated this meeting tonight. You always come to these meetings as a candidate with the laundry list of things you think you're going to say. I've kind of thrown those out the window, and that's because what I heard here tonight was a really engaged community, a really engaged set of trustees, President, Captain Mallory, as I've always kind of known you as, or heard of you as. And it was really clear to me that the trustees in this room, the citizens in this room, Captain Mallory, are very knowledgeable about all things Vicksburg. The conversation was fantastic, and it's because there is that background of knowledge from the people in the room. The reason I bring that up is I think it kind of segues into where I come from in terms of the 8th District Court. 8th District Court is a place where I practice on a day-in, day-out basis. I also practice day-in, day-out in the 9th Circuit Court here in Kalamazoo County. I'm well-versed in it. I'm a criminal defense attorney, have been for 12 years. I understand the problems we have in the community. I understand the issues that we have. I think a lot of them from a governmental standpoint in the community, when you're talking about the judiciary, the executive branch, police, prosecutor's office, legislature, et cetera. A lot of it can boil down to communication issues. And I think that we at present have an aging judiciary. That's why we have 3 seats open between the circuit court and the district court. I think there are a number of young options. I think I am one of them. I am passionate about Kalamazoo County. I am passionate about safety. I am passionate about talking to people and figuring out ways to get from point A to point B. I think a lot of people look at the judiciary as this thing. It's an ivory tower. The judges don't talk to people. One, I think that's a bit of a misconception, but there is some truth in that too. And I think moving forward, we need to be able to have broader conversations. I think I'm in a position with the judges. I'm supported by 10 judges, open public endorsements in this community at present. I think I'm in a position to have those conversations, further those conversations, and also really segue into conversations directly with law enforcement about what they see, what their issues are. It's about getting people under the same umbrella, and it's about finding solutions to the time that we're in. And again, the conversation I heard from everybody in this room today was very much about that. You said Vicksburg is not the same place it was 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago. Kalamazoo County is not the same place that it was 5, 10, 20, 30 years ago, and we need people with some ideas to move it forward and move it forward in a safe way. Happy to have any conversations with anybody after the meeting. If nobody wants to have a conversation, that's okay too.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
Thank you. What was your first name, please?
Beckett, it's B-E-C-K-E-T.
Thank you.
Tammy Hamilton, 210 West Washington Street. First of all, I want to say thank you for the improvements on the northeast corner of Clark Park. It looks fantastic, and even more importantly, it is safe. I see lots of children go up and down that area and on Washington Street, and the last thing I want is for an incident to happen, so I thank you for keeping the children of Vicksburg safe. Second of all, I want to thank you for the discussion on Clark Park. That was one of my main objectives tonight, is to hear the discussion, to understand it better. I'd rather gather information before I make wide-sweeping judgments. So I thank you for tabling that for a different time. When I raised my hand, my concern was if you're going to close that street for that bridge, you may want to look at the tracks on the west side of the mill pond, because they're getting a little questionable.
Well, you think?
Yeah, I travel over them daily. I can guarantee you,
I won't travel.
they're going to need either some improvement before or serious improvement after.
We
So.
don't have any control.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hamilton. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tammy.
Any others, please?
Good evening, Andrea Luggie, 108 West Highway Street and 106 West Highway Street. My name is Andrea Luggie. Together with my husband, Matt, we own JEB Property Solutions. It's named after our 3 children, Jagger, Ellen, Breyer, who all attend the Vicksburg Community School District. We owned a commercial building at 108 West Highway Street and the residential home right next to it at 106. In the past 18 months, we have remodeled 108 West Highway Street and signed a 5-year lease with a new business, Fab Magic, which you noted earlier. I come to you this evening with serious concerns of misconduct and misuse of authority pertaining to a letter that we received on September 10th in the United States Post Office envelope stamp that was dated September 6th. However, the letter was dated July 5th. When I first received the letter, I was perplexed at the timing of it. Why was I receiving this letter 60 days after its origination? I called the village office and spoke first to the receptionist, who couldn't really 100% answer why, so sent me to Village Clerk Wines. Mr. Wines wasn't able to give me an answer as to why I'd received this letter 60 plus days later, other than it somehow got lost in the mail. Well, I believe the mail can absolutely be lost, but 65 days is a pretty big stretch. I then asked Village Clerk Wines why we were being charged, which was the point of the letter, 3 times for our water meter usage fees. He said because we have 3 units in our commercial building. Village council members, we do not have 3 separate units in our building. We have 3 interconnected sections of our building. Also, we have 1 meter that supplies 108 West Highway Street, not 3. When pressed as to why we were all of a sudden being charged this, he responded, for that former village employee was billing us incorrectly all along. He also said that the person retired in March of this year, and it was only then discovered. He could not answer too many more questions and passed me on to Village Manager Mallory. Mr. Mallory returned my call the same day around 3 o'clock, just after he went and visited Mr. Fisher at Fat Magic Company. During my discussion with Mr. Mallory and pressing him for answers, he fumbled through his answers and recited the following to me. 1, this was not his decision, it was a state law. When I asked what law, he did not know offhand, but he was going to try to find it for me. 2, the village only got word this past spring about the increase, and he informed the council sometime during the budget process last spring. I have searched all council minutes for the past 18 months, and I was unable to find any reference Mr. Mallory made to the council about specific buildings having an increase in their water meter usage fees. When I pressed Mr. Mallory for more answers and clarification, he tried to intimidate me with, "You should be thanking me that we are not retro-billing you for the law." To which I responded, "Come on, Jim. You don't want to do that. You don't want to get my lawyer involved and your lawyers involved." His answer to me was, "It's okay, I have 8 on retainer." While these words might scare other business owners, I truly took this as a challenge to find the truth. You see, we own 4 other commercial buildings in 4 different municipalities, all of which are divided into suites, offices, or businesses. None, I repeat, none of these other municipalities bill us for anything other than 1 water meter usage fee. Furthermore, we contacted several other municipalities, and not one clerk had ever heard of a law that required such a billing. In addition, I spoke with 2 other Vicksburg business owners, 1 residential family and the other commercial, if they received similar letters, and they did not. The letter states at the bottom, these base rates changes are necessary in order to ensure that all users of the village utilities are treated equally. So is it fair to adjust just a few and not everyone? I began searching for the village ordinances, and they were quoted in the letter as to the reason why the change was happening. However, the ordinances were not cited. I was surprised that I could not find the village ordinances online. They were essentially shut down. When I called the village office to ask for a copy, they sent me to the South Central Michigan Construction offices in Athens. After speaking to them, they did not have a copy of the village ordinances, only the building codes. I then had 2 of my acquaintances email the clerk office, only to be told that we had to FOIA that information. I spoke with Village Manager Mallory on Thursday, September 15th, about wanting a copy of the ordinances because he told me they were being redone because of some misdemeanor laws. I said, that's fine. I don't need those laws. I just need the ordinances for the water meter. I then let him know I would just FOIA the information and make it easier for both of us. Village council members, my husband and I are rule-following business owners. We do things by the book. If there actually is an ordinance that requires multiple units to be billed multiple times, then there should be no problem providing it. It is extremely unprofessional and irresponsible of the village office, its employees and managers, to require citizens to FOIA village ordinances. On October 20th, 21, Richard Pyatt interviewed Mr. Mallory on a podcast. In that podcast, Mallory stated several times that his goal as a manager is to be transparent and engaging to the taxpayers of Vicksburg. I ask you, Village Council, do you feel that the Manager Mallory has been transparent in this situation? Has his office reacted with engagement to its taxpayers and business owners? In closing, it's a goal of ours just to find the truth. Where is the ordinance? What is the law? What lawyers are advised the Village Utility Department for this state law? Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Luigi. On a side note, you did FOIA the information. You will get the responses. Thank you for that. Second to that, I would like to thank you very much for what you've invested there. The place is phenomenal looking, and it's a is a big change, and thank you for investing in Vicksburg. So that takes us on to trustees' time. We'll start with Mr. Olson.
Thank you, thank you, sir. We had the last Vicksburg Vintage Show of the season yesterday. We had very good turnout. Two of my dealers told me that it was their best show ever there. So we are coming back next year. I will be getting together with Christian, and we're going to be tweaking the schedule a little bit, because we do have other communities that are asking us to put shows in there. So the only one that we do have firmed right now is June the 10th, which we made arrangements to rent the pavilion during the car show. So, and Skip Knowles has personally asked me to put a market in there at that time. John and Deb from the Rise and Dine stopped by. And of course, I've been in a couple of times to check on the building from the fire damage and that. They are moving along. They hope to be making an announcement within the next few days of when they plan to reopen. I know when they are, but they don't want to jinx it. So, but anyhow, I, once again, will be one of the first standing in line when they reopen, as I've known them for well over 25 years. So that's pretty much it with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Reister?
I've talked enough tonight. Thank you.
Trustee Merrill?
I talked a lot too, but I was just going to say, I'm on the village council and I got changes to my REUs on my water bill. So I'm interested in what you're finding out. That's it.
Trustee Holmes?
I actually had something I was going to share with council, but I think I'll tab this because it's been a long council meeting. But I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who showed up tonight. Yeah. This is what representative government is right here, folks. Lansing's important, Washington's sexy, but if you want to know about your sewers, waters, police, fire, your children, and your parks, come to these meetings, because this simply is where all of that is discussed. So thanks again. We really appreciate you showing up tonight.
Thank you, sir. Well, I'll wrap it up pretty quick. I just want to thank the Cultural Arts for their theater and what's coming up this September 30th, the Theater Nogaku. And it's a performing art, Japanese art. Could be quite interesting. So I ask everybody to look that up.
And that's at Schoolcraft.
That's at Schoolcraft High School. Frederick's Construction for what they've done at Sunset and Clark Park. What they did to the observation deck at Clark Park has just made a huge, huge difference. You have to acknowledge them. And acknowledge the Kalamazoo County Commissioners, for this money that we got out of a very small pool. Vicksburg was very, very fortunate in what we got. And I had the honor there last week to represent the village. And we assured them that it was a matching $1.2 million grant they were giving us, and we were going to invest it in the needier parts of town. And turned away and walked away, and the commissioner yelled at me, well, how about the dam? Oh, yeah, that too. $2.4 million, right? But that wasn't on our radar. It wasn't on my radar. The drain commissioner really took that. But what the staff has been working on was the matching funds for the, unmandated edict that we replace all the lead lines in the community. So that was huge. And on a last note was, we were on the call with the government, the EDA, a 2-hour phone call on all our expectations of what we needed to do. And an hour into it, I text Mr. Mallory. I said, you up for this? And he wrote back, he goes, I wish I'd known this 3 years ago before I committed. And then he assured me he was teasing me, right? So with the USDA grant, it just opened up my eyes to all they have to do behind the scenes, all the documentation that they have to do over and over and over, and the meetings they have to have. It's pretty phenomenal. But during that course of that discussion, I had an email pop up from Hayden, Idaho, their economics director out there, congratulating Vicksburg on their EDA grant. So you don't think that $3.7 million was nationwide. Anybody that's going after that funding, you knew who it got it. So we're very blessed to get it. So with that, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
No, hang, oh.
I jumped the
Carl, would you like to speak? I apologize for that.
Okay.
My ankle's just about to kick in, so.
Okay, good night.
Saying that you all look good on camera.
Thank you.
Do you need a support?
Support.
Support.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you all for being here.